graphically, it's like, what you need to understand is the theory of Freudian theory of personality. So the first personality theory we are trying to understand. It's a theory which is based on gratification. You have to gratify yourself vis-a-vis the environment, and you are a result of your IDs. The first individual, that is your system one. Then you are a result of your super ego, which is system two, as they say, and then everything is linked to the ego, which is super system three. So we are made up of individual differences, our super ego, and our ego. So these three things makes me as a complete personality. Now let's understand this further. ID is individual difference or identification, as you say. It's a characteristics of an individual. It represents the characteristics of an individual which is coming out when his psychological needs, physiological needs are at his best and at his peak, etc. So his true character, as we say, comes out. So this is generally the hunger, the need for thirst, satisfaction, the sex, etc. So all these things are the very, very physiological need, and that's the time when my true characteristics comes out, as they say. For such psychological needs, an individual seeks immediate satisfaction. So now this cannot prolonged for very long. So you look for an immediate satisfaction by any means, so then you get into alternative means also. So this individual, so like खाना नहीं मिला, खाना मैंने मांगा लोगों से, मैंने बहुत कोशिश की, मेहनत करने की कोशिश की, then I start stealing the food. So overall, because I cannot survive very long, this individual will resort to any means to satisfy such this. That's why the behavior is a result of his need to satisfy this physiological need. So that's my true characteristics, as they say. So that's an ID. Then we actually go to super ego. Actually, sequential this thing has happened. Super ego is the second part. Super ego is like a brake that imposes restraints on impulsiveness of the ID. Now ID is therefore, as I say, it is more impulsive. So to consider stealing, to consider taking it away, to consider hide, to consider snatch it away, etc. These are all those, impulsive forces that is forcing me to satisfy my physiological need. But super ego is the one which puts a brake on it. Hey, this may not be correct. Think twice. So super ego aspects convey that the individual satisfies his need in a socially acceptable manner. So then I will get into this break means I am trying to satisfy those needs in a socially acceptable manner. So that's what the break is all about. It brings out the morality. Therefore, these breaks are applicable only if you have a moral this thing within you alive. So morality subject matter comes in here. That people's morality, which is value-based system that he has ingrained or studied for himself, will work when my ID gets into the impulsive force, so it will put a brake. Then we go to an ego, which is an overall, it's an overall behavior. Individual's behavior is governed by his conscious control. Now this is a conscious control. So I have been told that this is not right. Get into the super, the super ego has conveyed me that try and do it what is socially acceptable, etc. The ego is my social control. It will give me a complete conscious control. I will now evaluate what is right, what is wrong, and accordingly I will try and do things. And it functions as my internal monitor, and it attempts to balance my impulsiveness. On the other end, the need for being socio-culturally, acceptable, etc. Sometimes it may not be acceptable. So there's a reason why you get into doing something which is not right, but you try to see that you are not caught also. So that's where so to say, the white collar crimes comes in. And paisa to chahiye. Paisa, I cannot steal, I cannot loot bank. So I get into unwarranted means. But that's because my ego has allowed me to. My ego is either allowing me when the social this thing is telling me, my super ego, this is not right. But then my ego balance is there, but like money is needed. So let's do थोड़ा बहुत चोरी तो चलता है, सब जन हर एक जन करता है. So then that's how you get into doing maybe not right thing. So that's what ego. We many times say my ego got hurt, and in the sense your subconscious mind versus your characteristics, etc. Asked you to be still balancing your this thing, but even that doesn't satisfy. So then we say that my ego got hurt, and I thought that this is appropriate. But when it didn't happen that way, my ego got hurt. So this is what we understood, the three aspects of a personality construct, so to say. So the development of a personality goes in a particular manner, which is right from the birth. This is not a very serious this thing, and the idea is to just reflect upon, so that don't try to struggle too much to read, or try to get conscious about it or worried about it. I am developed over a period, yani. So like in my development or my personality starts from my right from my birth, so the oral stage, as you say, the first this thing comes is the mouth, and the moment you are out and you are hungry, your mouth is the first interaction which takes place, and through mouth you suck milk, through mouth you drink water, etc. Now if that stage is not properly handled, where you are deprived of, when you are constrained about it, etc., then that's where something happens, and your mind starts shaping certain constraining theories in your mind. Then comes the anal stage, which is elimination of organs related, and so my organs start developing. Now that's where again, if I am not very consciously handled, then I get offended. So then you often find such people very irritating, because during his growth, and during when the body was changing, there is something that was not happening right, and then he reads the overall picture environment wrongly. Phallic stage, which is my own genitals and my sex organs, etc., start developing. Now even at that time I have natural urges, now if that natural urges are not answered properly, or if I'm not made to understand, then I get into committing wrong things, if that wrong things, say you are caught. Now that being caught doing wrong things means it will create a adverse impact on your mind, so mind will then get into a different way of thinking about self, about others, etc. Latency stage and dormancy of sexual instinct, so that's the stage which generally comes very long, after say 35, 40, etc. This comes, and this has started coming in much early in today's stressful life, where you are just bothered about just working. There is nothing else so that has been left out, so to say. And genital stage, a heightened interest in persons of opposite sex, so you develop that entire attraction towards the opposite sex, so you want to get along, you want to get accepted, you want to indulge in mischief, etc. You want to like be with them, involve into sexual acts, etc. Now all these stages are creating one person in me. Now at this stages, if something happens rightly, okay, my perception will get corrected, I will correct myself. If something doesn't go right, I may form a different characteristic or a trait within me that shapes up my personality. It may not be in a right manner. So that's the first aspect of a personality theory, is the development stage of an individual. That forms a very essential aspect. So now let's enter the second theory, which is known as the Jungian or a non-Freudian theory. So earlier theory was more on how individual develops right from his childhood days, and then various genital related issues and all, making a full character. Here that was defied. That was defied by Adler, who is actually the developer of this particular neo-Freudian theory, and he says that the personality development is a result of a social relationship that we strive to achieve for ourselves, wherein there is something that we want to achieve or we want to acquire, which meets with the kind of a relationship that we are striving to achieve. So what he said is it's a constant feeling of overcoming the inferiority. That is a striving force that person wants to put in, so that he uplifts himself one level above. So that's where he says the growth of personality happens that way, when a person strives to overcome his existing limitations, overcome his existing constraints, etc. His personality gets developed. They have rejected the earlier theory. There's another lady who is also part of this neo-Freudian theory development. She is classified under the personality group as three distinct groups, which is compliant, aggressive, and detached. In a very simple term, compliant is like there are people who generally comply with various things, environment, the moral values, ethics, etc. So they are like a compliant group of people. They are aggressive. There are people who like kind of defy this. They show an aggression to change things, etc. around them. So they are aggressive. And there are third is a detached individual. They are neither worried about aggressiveness, or they are not necessarily following the ethical or moral norms, etc. They try to have something on its own, which is a kind of a middle path or a distinct path, so to say. So that's why the marketeers have often utilized this, to their advantage. Here there is an example given. There is a, you say many products like deos or some many such other products, they kind of come to you, and their appeal is more like a defying this thing, as if you are looking at it where they are trying to tell you to give up certain societal norms and start for using it, etc. There are racial connotations. Many companies have tried that, etc. So they try to create a distinct way to attract the people. If they, that group of people or the kind of a target group that you have are more aggressive or detached, etc., you can create a communication accordingly. So the third theory is a trait theory. This is entirely a quantitative theory. It's a research-based theory which personally believes that the human being is a sum total of certain various traits. Now, traits has to be aligned with the need of a marketeer. Marketeer, for selling, for delivering a message, for making a meaning out of its message, expects certain traits to be present among the kind of a consumer that they are targeting. So as a result, marketeers must find out what kind of a trait that they are looking for. Then through a research, must see that presence of that trait among its target group of customers, and then measure them, what the severity or the strength of that traits among its target customers. So if we move forward, it's like a quantitative measurement of individual's personality. You quantify my personality using various traits that makes one's personality. So through a research or through a conversation with me, or through a common research, or through maybe an observation research, there are various methodologies through which you try to develop trait-based assessment of an individual. So just instead of discussing this, here is a, say for example, out here straight away. What earlier slide was trying to tell you that there may be a certain stronger traits that you are looking for. So like leadership quality, for you to really pitch certain learning programs or certain managerial programs, etc. You feel that the leadership quality related communication will matter. So you need to see that whether these people who are going for such programs have a leadership quality as a trait or not, or they are striving for that trait to come into them, etc. So that's what. So essentially these are not necessarily the only 5 factors around which the trait theories are built. There at least maybe more, but as a theory, understand this. You try to understand whether the person is a dogmatic or an innovator. So that's a 2 extreme that you try to measure through various probings. Characters of the individuals you try to measure, which is tradition oriented, inner directed, or other directed, etc. So what directs me, what guides me? So that is what you try to find out. Consumer susceptibility to various societal norms, etc., or your likelihood of getting carried away by an emotional message, etc. So those are the aspects that one need to see. Cognitive personality, that is personality which is based on information and assessment, etc. So this is just a 2 representative, visualizer or verbalizer. Somebody just visualizes things for himself, while somebody is able to verbalize that, what is he visualizing it. Somebody may visualize but may not be able to speak well. So there are people of different natures. Materialism. So today materialism is driving a lot of consumerism, etc. So where does this individual fall? So what you see in the side is a kind of a reference. This is optimum simulation level. That's a level beyond which the person's character starts changing. Otherwise, it is at a natural level. So every individuals have what you call an OSL, optimum simulation level. Now, this is shaped up by, as you say, the lifestyle need and ability to risk. I need a lifestyle for which I am willing to risk. So my OSL will become either high or same, or will go down depending on the environment. This aspect, second aspect, what lifestyle I am striving, and for which what is the risk I am willing to put in. So optimum simulation level beyond which consumers trait starts changing. Otherwise, it is at a natural level. So you try to understand first what is an optimal simulation level, and then as a marketeer, you need to try and see whether you want to increase this towards an higher side, or you want to touch shift this to a other level. So then only the person will get into that persuasive mode, action mode.